knowledge to the demographic that you're working with and for, and all of the millennials that are starting to need this type of care as well. So I
Yeah.
think that like it can go much farther than a lot of my other reach with a lot of my other content. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
So uh-oh. Did you just lose everything that you had? Oh, okay. Maybe. Yep. Okay, there you go. Melly, whatever you do, don't touch the cord on the floor because anytime we do, everything goes crazy. Thank you. All right. We're recording? We're good? 1 second? Oh, okay. Hold on 1 sec. We're recording, but I'll count us in. How you doing? How was your weekend? Like, I know it's Tuesday now, but
It was good. I actually did not have the kids, so it was amazing.
there you go.
I mean,
Awesome.
they're both amazing in their own
Right.
way.
Exactly. Exactly. I understand completely. This weekend was consumed by soccer, and more soccer. On
Yeah.
Saturday, the games were at 9-3. On Sunday, the game was at 9-6. And then my cousin got us tickets for me and my daughter and my cousin to go see the mermaids at B Ocean, which is in Fort Lauderdale. Like they have like a bar there where like mermaids
Oh.
yeah, you can see like the mermaids swimming. So
Oh,
it's
wow.
cool. It's just like, yeah, it was, yeah. But it was just a busy day. And now, you know, I have that. But the game was at 6 and it's an hour long, and they're 6 and 7 playing against 8 and 9-year-olds. So it was intense, man. It was intense. All right, you ready? We good?
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna count us in. It's like hair's okay, Melly. I got anything wacky? Okay. Okay. All right, I'll count us down. And 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mommy is Thriving. I'm Sammy Galbo, your host. I am sorry about my voice today, but I hope you bear with me. Today's guest is Meghan Phelan, a solo mom of 3, a longtime leader in the long-term care space, and the owner of an in-home care agency in Miami. Over nearly 2 decades in this industry, Meghan has evolved into what she calls a caregiver advocate, helping families navigate the emotional and logistical reality of caring for aging parents. We're talking about the stuff millennial moms are slowly realizing is on our horizon: how to know when a parent needs help, what support can actually look like at home, how to think about costs and long-term care insurance, and how to manage all of it without letting the mental load that we all bear swallow you whole. Meghan, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited for this.
Me too. Me too. I really think that this talk is really going to be inspiring to all of the mommies out there that are in this new space of seeing our parents age and seeing what that really means in real time. So, Meghan, can you introduce yourself a little bit to our listeners and tell us what you mean when you say you're a caregiver advocate and just a little bit of your background?
Absolutely. I'm Meghan Phelan. I'm a mom of 3, entrepreneur, owner of Granny Nannies of South Florida. We're a private home care agency, and I'm the most recent master care partner for a super exciting project called Electronic Caregiver. Addison is her name. She's an AI caregiver. And when I say I'm a caregiver advocate, what I mean is someone who stands in the gap between families that don't know where to begin. So I'm the person who has seen every version of panic in families, from we didn't know that it was this bad, or every version of adult child that is just trying so hard and on the near of a breakdown and doesn't know where to go. So that's me, an advocate who can educate, protect, empower, and help these families stay ahead of a crisis.
For sure. No, that's so important. I mean, really staying ahead of and knowing what could happen, right? Like just knowing where everything is, how it adds up and all of that. So, what pulled you into long term care originally, and what did you learn early on that most families didn't realize?
Yes, originally I studied, well, ultimately I studied health service administration at the University of Central Florida. And I have always felt called into the spaces that society doesn't talk about: aging, decline, emotional load for families. It's not glamour, especially nowadays with the glitz and the glam on social media and the influencers. It's not at all about the glam, the space I chose, but that's never been my style. So naturally, this was a perfect fit for me. And early on, most families, I would say, I learned this very fast, that most families don't call for help when they need it. It's like months or years after they should have called, and by then it's almost too late.
Yeah, that seems like definitely it would be a problem. I mean, I think we as moms and we as daughters and children, like we have such an far-fetched idea of what aging looks like and everything else. And I think it's really hard for us to switch to the caregiver mindset for our parents because we're doing it for our children. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that there's that issue as well, right? You just we kind of don't want to accept facts. We don't want to accept that time is moving forward. And yes, like we may not see our parents every day or interact with our parents every day, but time for them, it goes a little bit faster, right? And
Yeah.
so there's all of these things that are happening, all of these aging things, and we may not be seeing it every single day. And so we get to the point that we don't realize we need help until it's too late. And I love that we're having this conversation because I think it's going to be eye-opening for so many people that are like, okay, my parents are only, in their 70s, and but what do the 80s look like? And what does it look like when you start to see the decline? And what do I need to do to prepare for it? Right? Like having those plans in place and having those conversations early on while they may be challenging and conversations we don't want to have with our parents because we don't want to accept the fact that they are getting older. They're really they're really needed. And these are the conversations we have to be having. Excuse me
Yeah.
just one second, Megan. Can you go ahead and put the list with the numbers? Because I don't have the numbers. I don't know what's going on. Are the numbers not there? Hold on one sec, Megan. I apologize. Oh,
Yeah, I don't mind pausing.
I am so sorry. Bear with me.
It's
I'm like,
okay. I
we
don't
just had an
mind.
issue and
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
like,
mind.
it's okay because my CEO just came in anyway and then showed off our studio. So hey, that would have interrupted us anyway. So good timing. Hold on one sec. What, the numbers are not there again? Okay, can you just put them in? Just put them side by side real quick and just do them. It should be easy for you to do. I can't, I couldn't see delete like all of the things that it just, yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yes, delete that. Okay. Sorry. Sometimes, yes, our teleprompter is fantastic, except when it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It didn't copy over everything that I had written out. And so it was like, yeah, one of these days, Microsoft is going to have its own teleprompter, and then that'll make my life easier. Don't get too crazy, Melly, because it's not going to let you have everything up there anyway. So, yeah, just – 'cause, 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 'c Okay, that's good. You want to just put those up for me? Thank you. Okay. I was like, what is happening? Like, why can't I see where I am? Okay, we're good. Yeah, yeah. I don't even think it'll let you save all of that. It's gonna end up disappearing, you know? Okay. Yep. Where'd it go? Nope. The other one. That one. All right. So we were on number 3, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll count us back in. You good? Gorgeous. You look gorgeous, darling. All right. Ready? 3, 2, 1. All right. So, I know you keep hearing a lot from a lot of your patients and a lot of their children that they just want to stay in their home. Why is that desire so common, do you think? And what does it take to make it possible? Because, I know when my mom was ill, as many of our listeners know, my mom passed 3.5 years ago now. Yeah, unfortunately, she very much wanted to stay in her home, and for her, it wasn't possible because of the dose of morphine that she was on. But I know for that's not the norm. Talk to me a little bit about how that works with you guys and how you really strive to make that possible and accessible.
Yes, that was a common objection I would get when I worked at the assisted living facility in my early career was we love this place, we love you, but we just want to stay home. And so thinking about that, it's home is your identity, home is your safety, home is your dignity, home is your peace. That's a big one. And also home is your autonomy, and a lot of these individuals that are going into these aging in place plans and trying to figure it out, they're holding on to that, they're holding on to their independence. So that's the biggest one. For an aging adult, leaving a home isn't just about, oh, we're picking up and we're moving. It's losing a lifetime of habits, smells, routines, memories, and that's what they're leaving behind, and that's huge.
For sure, for sure. I love that you say smells because it's so true, like you have that smell of home. And it's funny you say that, like I have a bunch of my mom's stuff because, I'm an only child and my mom was my everything. And so I still have clothing of hers that I haven't washed and it just smells like her home. And it's like every time that I just need like that little pick me up, I like go have my little sniff and I'm very happy. Now when I make that out loud, it sounds a little crazier than it seems in my head, but uh, I'm
It's
pretty sure my
sweet.
listeners know I'm kind of a little kooky as it is, but I think that's why they like me. Um,
Sweet.
so for all of those millennial moms listening, and starting to realize that this season is almost upon us, why is aging parent care becoming a real season for us, and what steps can we really take in our day-to-day to kind of prepare ourselves for it?
Well, we're the sandwich generation, and so we're now hearing that term almost daily. We're raising little ones. Some of us are crazy enough to have a baby in their 40s. We're raising little ones. We're growing careers. We're simultaneously facing aging of the largest generation in American history, which is our parents. And unlike prior generations, we don't have that built in village from when we were growing up in the 80s and the 90s. We're juggling more, we're juggling it earlier, faster. Elder care is arriving at rapid speed.
For sure, for sure. No, it's very true. I mean, I think that we're I mean, it's so cliche to say it, but we're living in unprecedented times, right? Like before, my mom and her parents, that we lived down the street from them. Like we were very close to them even as they aged. And then when they made their migration south to Florida, my aunt and uncle weren't far, so they had, the resources around them. Whereas now, a lot of us live very far from our parents, or a 6-hour car ride. I mean, my in-laws are 6 hours from us, and my sister-in-law is close by them, but she has two very littles, so for her, if and when that time comes that she needs to help in their care, it's going to be very difficult. And I know that, we need to start putting those plans in place for us to take those next steps. What are the earliest signs that you know that a parent needs support before it really becomes that emergency? What are the things that we can look out for where we can say, okay, we really do need to start making these plans?
Yes, it's a good question because, like you said earlier, oftentimes what we think is normal aging is really not. And so we get caught up in daily life and we don't slow down to realize that this is actually a sign that we need to stop and take and tell me more. So I call these the tipping point, and these are why people call me in the first place. Nobody picks up the phone and says today's a great day to call Granny Nannies. Like that is not, we're not we're not that glamorous. Like I said earlier, something has to happen. So what happens and why do families call? More forgetfulness, medication mistakes, repeating stories, clutter everywhere in the house. Normally they're very orderly in their house, but things are piling up. Maybe there was a mail incident of fraud and you notice that your parents got subjected to fraud. Biggest one, falls, bruises, withdrawing from social life, not keeping up with their friends, decline from hygiene, confusion in environments that normally they wanted to be in, fender benders. So those are like many, but those are the most common.
For sure. For sure. If you could teach Caregiving 101 to millennial families, what are the top 3 things you'd want them to understand?
Yes, and I do this with my seniors too. It's 3 things you want to look at. Your age in place plan is number one. So start thinking about your age in place plan. Prepare before you need the help for your parents. Don't wait for that fall or catastrophic injury or episode that puts them in the hospital. Number 2 is caregiving is a team sport, and you want to build your caregiving team now. You don't want to try to do it alone. If you are an only child, get creative. Who can you bring in? Nieces and nephews, longtime friends. Don't try to do it alone. It'll break you. And then the last thing, number 3, is I think people underestimate the burnout, caregiver burnout. Your parents' well-being is specifically tied to your well-being, and you as a family caregiver you are the most vulnerable person in this entire transaction. It's not the person actually receiving the help, it's you, the one that's giving the help. So you need to look at that as your well-being equates to your parents' well-being.
For sure, for sure. And, we're all dealing with the mommy burnout while dealing with the, parental care burnout as well. And so I think that those things put together could equate to something not good. So we need to make sure we put the plans in place in order to make that not happen. We really got to prevent any type of burnout because society has plans for all of us mommies, and we need to be everywhere at all time. And especially right now, as we're recording this during the holiday season, and I swear there are more events and more things than I know what to deal with. And so for me personally, my great aunt is in a care facility, and she's in a memory care center because she does deal with a lot of memory care issues. And even there are schedules where we want to be a part of, and we want to go and see her and do things. And so making sure that we plan ahead and make sure we go to all of the things. So there's burnout everywhere, right? And we just got to make sure that we stay on top of it and check in with ourselves. And I agree with you so much that having other people to talk to and to work with and carry the burden with, right? Whether it's a partner or friends or other family members, that's a big part of it. You really got to make sure that village is there for you because just like it was there for you in the early days of motherhood, it needs to be there for you in this time too, because, you need the right people around you in every season of your life. Right. And I'm scared to say that I feel like in my family, we've made a lot of mistakes when we care for our elders and seeing those transitions and seeing it, and hindsight's always 2020. Right. But what are the most common mistakes that families make early on when they're trying to handle it themselves and just be everywhere? Besides from the burnout, I mean, what really, what mistakes you tend to see a lot, that people call you and say, "Help, Megan, we need help."
Yes, and it's really tied into our last question, and that's very good to bring up. Is they just wait too late. They wait too long to get help. They wait too long to build their caregiver team. Just because things are going well with your parents right now doesn't mean you can't do this now. And that's the biggest mistake I see is you don't tackle those three tips. You got to tackle them now when they're healthy, when there's nothing going on, when there isn't chaos with their health. That's number one. Number one mistake is they wait too long.
For sure, for sure. And I think one of the things, like, I know this isn't necessarily your part of it, but knowing, especially I found this out afterwards, just knowing the financial part of it as well, knowing the financial burden, knowing um, where your parents are keeping their money, where your parents have their everything allocated, where all the passwords are. If I could scream it from the rooftops, please, parents, children, know every password.
Yes.
I'm going to repeat it one more time. Know every password. Have a list. Have it written down. Because
Yeah.
when I tell you, my mother had a little notepad that was like this big, okay? And it had all of her usernames for everything in there with the passwords. Now, were there multiple pages with the same account with different passwords? Yes. Did I have any idea which one was the current one? No. Did it make it very difficult? Yes. Like, oh my God. That burden in and alone of itself, like I can't put it even into words how much of a pain in the new, what it was
Yeah.
dealing with all of that and like trying. I mean, thankfully I had people in place that really helped me with that. But for
Yeah.
me afterwards, like that was the one thing that I was like, oh my God, I really need to like write a book and let people know that, like, please ask your parents for that information before it's too late, before they don't know. Please stay on top of it and make sure you're on the accounts. Make sure you're on the accounts, because anything that where I was a beneficiary on something, 99% of the time, my mom had my maiden name. And so then switching it, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. So I needed my notarized copy of my marriage license. I needed to take that everywhere with all the paperwork and everything else. Yeah.
Yeah.
PTSD. I got a little PTSD there,
Your
but it's a
nervous
real
system.
thing.
It is.
It's
Yeah.
all coming up. I'm reliving it all over again. But for you, what are the invisible mental load tasks of caregiving that people don't anticipate until they're drowning? For
Um,
me, I mean, it was the after effect. Unfortunately, I didn't have the caregiving aspect because my mom was great until she wasn't, and then was hospitalized. But I can anticipate that there's going to be a lot of that mental load tasks for, when the time comes for other members of my family. And just talk to me a little bit and talk me through some of that.
Yeah, well, you just said it. The switch is always in the on position. It's always. So your nervous system is in fight or flight at all times. And I want people to look at it as you're not in an abusive situation where you're trying to run from it, but your nervous system is heightened. And when your nervous system's heightened, your cortisol goes up and your body is in fight or flight. Literally, that is always on. So with that, your system goes into overdrive. You don't think about little things like keeping track of medications, keeping track of appointments, watching for cognitive decline or changes, updating doctors, keeping all the doctors connected, making sure your parent is eating, they're drinking. You jump every time your phone rings. These are invisible signs that you need to bring the nervous system down or you're going to get sick.
For sure, for sure. That fight or flight mode, right? Like, I think that as moms, it's always so much more heightened. I mean,
Yeah.
we're worried about everything, right? Anytime you get a phone call from the school, like what happens? Like, you exactly.
Yeah.
You're like, what's wrong? What happened?
Who
My
died?
favorite is when is when they call you and they're like, everything's okay, but
They know you. They know us.
I'm like, is it? Is it okay? The best was they called my friend, and this is just funny, and I know you'll appreciate it. But my friend's daughter, I think fell off the playground and like um ended up needing stitches. And but when they called, they were like, everything's okay, but I'm like, no, but like everything wasn't okay. Like, I get it. You were trying to calm us down, but like there was blood. It's not okay. Not okay. Not okay. Stitches, not okay. Okay. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, I totally agree with you. I think that, making sure that you're on top of the way you feel and making sure that you know what to expect and not being in that fight or flight is
Hmm.
huge. And it's really hard for us. I mean, I think it's generational also that we are. I feel like we are more of the fight or flight generation just because of the connectivity that we all have on a daily basis, right? And
Yeah.
everything that we've been through. I mean, our generation went through it all. Let's be real, like we had multiple things go on for us as we were kids, as we were young adults, as we were adults, and beyond. I mean, even in the past, 10 years, how many things have happened that were like, okay, like we have to reset and check in because if not, we're juggling kids, work, home, everything going on in the world. What systems or routines help keep caregiving logistics from taking over everything, in your line of work? What do you see that really work for parents, kids, all of the above in order to really
Yeah.
get a handle on everything?
Yeah, I think the biggest, I love when families, and in your case, you were the only child, so you might not, maybe you've experienced this with other family members, but I love when they have a group chat or they have like a WhatsApp,
Mhm.
and um, you got to lay the boundary from the start. The person who's the point person for care, you got to tell your family that this isn't a live Facebook feed. You're not going to get live feed. This is our group. This is our WhatsApp group. I will post about mom every other day, every day, every week. But please keep it in this thread and keep it here. I will respond to you. It might not be right away, but I will respond to you. Please read the entire update before you ask questions. So I love when they have that one line of communication with each other. And then definitely keeping the rhythm, the wave, keeping it structured day to day is huge. Having a calendar. Uh, don't just don't just go with the flow with the tasks. On Tuesday we go for a walk. On Wednesday we go here. Keep it structured. And then you want to have, even if you don't use them right away, have a professional support like granny nannies like mine in the back burner. Already you've done the onboarding. You already know the office manager. You already know that you like how they work, and your paperwork is with them. So when you're ready for respite, you just pick up the phone and say, hey, we're ready for respite, or hey, this is a busy time of year, it's Christmas. Can you cover every other weekend? So always have an agency like mine on the back burner that you already know and trust. And then lastly, this is big now and great that I can even say this, but we're use what's out there electronically and with AI, such as electronic caregiver. It's going to open up your brain space where you could take what's in your brain and put it into AI. Medication reminders, vitals, health prompts. Take what you normally would do for your parent and put it in an electronic caregiver or an AI driven type care model so you can free up that brain space and use it for higher executive functioning tasks or quality time.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I love that there's an electronic caregiver. Like that is mind blowing to me because, I mean, really just for even the smallest tasks, right? Like the medication reminders and making sure that, they check off a box when they actually take their medication so then you can actually see it in real time too. I mean, that's huge. And I
Yeah.
think that it really takes a weight off of our shoulders being like, okay, I don't need to check on this all the time. And in that in between step, right? It's that in between from they will need more more personal care at some point in the near future. But in
Mhm.
that in between where you can't be there physically all the time, having the electronic caregiver is huge. I mean, that's an amazing AI tool. I'm so excited to learn more about it, and I'm sure that we'll go further into it in another one of these. But that in and of itself just sounds great. My question for you, I think that a lot of the times in those WhatsApp, there is that like that point person and the person that usually becomes that default caregiver. And what are the practical ways to make it a more balanced relationship and less stressful for that one person? I can only imagine that it's a lot for one person to handle. I mean, we talked about it before, having other people there and other family members and things that can help with the day to day, I'm sure is huge. So talk to me a little bit about having how to get more people involved.
Yeah, it's usually just as simple as this was a sibling that is the closest in proximity. So it's simple. Or maybe it's the person that has the strongest executive functioning, so they like naturally fall into that role. But also too, it's whoever says first, and then like who says yes first, and then keeps saying yes. So that's why I always try to get this in the age and place plan beforehand. But if you're stuck in it and everything's falling on you, it's time for you to build your family team. And you want to define the roles. You want to assign the responsibilities intentionally. Don't give one of your siblings a task that you know they're going to fail at, or your cousin or your nephew. Don't give them tasks that you know they're going to fail at. You're setting yourself up, you're self sabotaging. Put everything in writing, have a Google Drive or a shared drive, and then understand that equal and fair, they're not the same. So, radical acceptance for that one. Default caregivers do need boundaries and they definitely need backup.
For sure. For sure. When, logistically speaking, when location really determines who that default caregiver is, how can families kind of support from afar? I think that that's one of those things that, I see in my personal life, right? Where, family members used to live in one area with one family member was local and could be on top of the caregiving. And now they've relocated and now a different family member is now taking care. But, as you age, the type of care that you need on the regular it looks totally different. So
Yeah.
so what is that really like? How do you handle that? And what are some tips and tricks to help with
Yeah.
that?
The healthiest long distance caregiving team I've seen is pretty radical. They will have their siblings or nieces and nephews actually fly in to relieve that primary caregiver. And that primary caregiver gets a complete mental break. And I've seen that happen. Maybe they'll fly in once every week, once a month for the full weekend. Or maybe they'll fly in for a full week once a month. That does so much good for the primary caregiver. So if you can get that in the budget and get that going with somebody, even if they live afar, if you can get someone down there to relieve the primary caregiver physically, that's gold for the
For sure.
situation.
For sure. No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think making the plans beforehand, right? Like if you
Mhm.
know that that location is going to determine who the primary caregiver is, that those conversations are had. And those are not easy conversations. I'm not going to pretend like they are, right?
Yeah,
Especially when there is a financial constraint. But,
yeah,
at times we have to realize what we are capable of and what we are not capable of. And as children and moms and all of the things, we always think that we are all superheroes and we are super moms. And yes, in our own regard, we are. However, there are boundaries that we need to set for our well being. And I think that those are the hard conversations, right? But you need to have them. And,
yeah,
if you need to message me and say, how do I have these conversations? Or you need to message Megan,
yeah.
let us know. We are here for you. But you need to just do it, And honestly, use your AI bots and use your chat GPT to give you a pep talk. How many times I've used chat GPT to give me a pep talk? Let me tell you. My girlfriend's like, chat GPT is my therapist. I was like, no, no, You need a therapist also. ChatGPT cannot be your therapist.
Yeah,
However, it can supplement your therapy, okay?
it
I'm
can.
okay with that.
It
But,
can.
I think that, let it pep you up in order to have those hard talks because, at the end of the day, those are the only ways you're going to get these resolutions. Those are the only ways that you're going to be able to make these plans and make sure you don't have that burnout. Because if you
Mhm.
are the primary caregiver 120% of the time, you are going to burn out. I promise you, you will.
Are.
It's just not
You are.
feasible.
You
Yeah,
are, and they don't. And a lot of people, and it happens with our children. We don't realize how fast this chapter is going to be with our parents. When we're faced with it, it looks like a huge mountain that we're going to be like sunsetting through this, and everything's going to be beautiful. It's going to go like that. Just like our kid went from 0 to 60 in their growth, your parent is going to go 0 to the chapter is over in like that. So don't hesitate to take radical measures with your age in place plan.
I love that. I love that. That's great advice. Great advice, Megan. And so when do you tell, so as we're talking and we're speeding up through this, right? Like as the parents are changing and evolving and, other things become more of an issue, and when and how do you tell a family member that staying home isn't the safest option anymore? And what are the biggest red flags that, you see that you have to take notice of? And is that something that a care team will tell you? Like when do you when do you listen and when and how do you listen,
Yeah, yeah, it's something that you could stay at home till the end, but for very specific reasons, you might have to opt for congregate living, which yours is an outlier. Your mom needed the morphine, and it was more appropriate setting was congregate living. But for the most part, staying home till the end, as long as you have the resources to do so, is a doable job. But the resources to do so is the key word here. Not everybody has the resources to do so because the cost of care at home is extremely high. So if you don't have the resources to spend at home, once your parents need 24/7 care, then that's when you start looking at a congregate living setting that's right for them. So that could be uncontrolled wandering, 24/7 care, multiple falls, 24/7 care, inability to follow medication regimes for whatever reason, like you mentioned with your mom, doesn't have to be that they're just flat out not wanting to take meds. Maybe the medication is specific and it needs to be injected, whatever the reason. Aggression, unpredictable behaviors, and then total isolation. Even with the caregiver, nothing's pepping them up. They need to they need 24/7 monitoring. So when that change happens where 24/7 monitoring is needed by a physical person and you don't have the resources to do it, I think that's when most will have to start looking at congregate living.
I got that. No, for sure. That totally makes sense to me. And, all of this, I mean, this is a hard topic to have a conversation with. And I think that people are going to get super overwhelmed, like in this planning part of life. But, if a family is overwhelmed and doesn't know where to start, what are the first steps that you recommend in order to get them started?
Yeah, 3 steps. Take a breath and assess the situation: cognitive, physical, emotional, home environment. Write down what you find. Determine what your goal is after that. Is the goal companionship, safety, keeping them home as long as possible? What's the problem with that? And then bring in the professionals early: home care, care managers, get your POAs, resources like me. So get all that aligned. You don't need the perfect plan right away. You just need a starting point. Even if you say today's the day I'm going to put in my Google Drive all of mom's doctors. Just get started, have a starting point.
That's great. That's a great first step is really getting the doctors written down, right?
Yeah.
Having though taking those steps and knowing, okay, I need to know every single doctor that my parent goes to. I
Mhm.
need to know what kind of cadence they're on with these doctors as well, right? Like how often are they going? What medications are being prescribed by each doctor? Okay, what are the how often do they take these medications, right? I mean, I know from just myself with my dad, like he he goes to a bazillion different doctors, and I know that this is where I need to start in my own journey, right? As he gets a little bit older and everything else, and his partner as well, just knowing that information, information is power, and that is really the truth. Knowing that and having that all written down somewhere so that you can say, okay, these are the things I need to know. I need to make sure that he's going to all of these doctor's appointments, that he's staying on his cadence, and making sure that those things are happening, and making sure that all of those check-ins are going on. Those are the things that just start involving you in the situation, right? Because they might be saying they're good and fine and everything else, but just, doing checks and balances and making sure that that is truly the case is a great place to start. So I know that we did talk about, paying and bottom line of all of this. So when someone can't afford private pay care, you said you can still help point them somewhere. What are a few realistic alternatives or directions, and what resources are really out there to help someone in these situations?
Yes, sure. So veterans benefits is number one. I always ask that question on all of my inquiries and all of my consults is, was your loved one a veteran or were they married to a veteran? And it doesn't mean that they have to retire military, or it doesn't mean that they need a disabled pension. It really just means, did they serve one day during wartime? Yes or no? And if the answer is yes, then there are veterans benefits. It's not a lot, but it's a little bit to help. And then if your loved one meets the Medicaid threshold, there's Medicaid waiver programs that'll send in caregivers. There's local aging agencies. There's adult daycare programs that are significantly less costly. There's church and community support. And then, like I've mentioned a few times, is look at the AI and the tasks that you can divert to AI care, such as the electronic caregiver, because those paths are much low cost than getting the full-blown help.
I love that. I love that. No, that's those are some great tips. So, for someone that is new to this and really has no idea what any of this looks like, price point wise, I mean, all the scary conversations. So, in the market that you're in, so you're in South Florida, you're in the Miami market. What's a typical hourly cost range for in-home care, and why is pricing so market driven?
Yeah, so in Miami, we're going to be at $28 an hour at the lower end, 27, and then at the upper end, 38 per hour. And that's depending on need, that's dependent on caregiver availability, who the client is specifically asking for. But the price is mainly driven by, as far as how we set the price, is wage competition of the other agencies. What are the other agencies paying the caregiver? What other competition is out there? What are they offering? Driving conditions. How long does it take a caregiver to go 4 miles in Miami versus 4 miles in another town is much different. Cost of professional liability insurance in Miami is the highest in the nation. So that's going to drive this up. Cost to run a business in your specific city, that's going to fluctuate a little bit. So everything is very local driven. And everything is very specific to the agency. I found that the agencies that have been around the longest, they're really structuring their price based on how can they stay in the market, how can they support more families, and that's how price is structured. And that's not always going to be the lowest price. You might have to pay to get a good, solid agency that's been in the community for a while.
For sure. No, that makes total sense. Question for you, just from, just things I was thinking about. In terms of the caregiver that is hired for the person, is there some type of matching process that you do in order to find the right caregiver for each client's needs? I mean, I know from experience, finding the caregiver that worked for my grandmother was not the easiest thing. She did not like every single caregiver that was given to her. So I
Yeah.
can only imagine that you come across this more often than not. So
Yeah.
how do you handle the matchmaking of the caregiver?
Yeah, they should be matchmaking. Not every agency does it, but we do. And that's why we've been so successful at it. And we go into the matchmaking process as we know the questions to ask, we know what's going to get us started. But ultimately, the biggest thing that you can do with an agency is communication. So, and the agency has to be open to that communication. So we will make our best match in the beginning, but if we're finding as weeks go on that this isn't going to be a long-term situation, then the agency has to be open to saying, let's go back to the drawing board and we're going to make it right. We're going to work on this together. If an agency is not having the mindset of teamwork with the family, then you're never going to find a good match. But if an agency can humble themselves and listen to what you really need, whether they like it or not, and go back to the drawing board, then that's the agency you want to use. I don't make the best matches in the beginning. Sometimes I don't knock it out of the park every time. But I am willing to say, okay, let's regroup and go back to the drawing board.
That sounds great. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure that honestly, I feel like that might be the hardest part, just making sure that it works and fits and making everybody happy. I'm sure, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, so really making everybody happy, the family happy, making the patient happy, it's a lot. I do not envy that part of your job for sure.
Yeah, I'm there to serve. I'm there to give you the information and then work on it and fine tune it together.
Exactly. I love that. No, everything collaboration, right? So in terms of long-term care insurance, I've heard about it. I don't know as much as I probably should about it. What do you wish families understood before they need it? And what does reimbursement typically look like? How does that all play out?
Yeah, the biggest thing is that they wait to use it. And I'm like, why? We're not promised tomorrow. Get the help you need now. Don't try to project what life looks like. So the biggest thing is them not even using this exponentially priced policy that they paid into. Most policies, what people don't realize is that you're going to be paying privately anyways for 90 days. So you might as well open the claim, get going with care, minimal care when you don't need a ton of care. So the price is low as you are going through the elimination period, they call it. So they don't realize most policies have an elimination period where they want you to pay 90 days out of pocket. Most policies are underutilized. Claims should be open sooner than later. Documentation is everything. I hear nightmare stories about claims not being paid, and that's simply because agencies aren't using the technology that's out there for time cards and documentation. They're still using paper. And I'm like, you're submitting a paper claim to the long-term care insurance? Don't do that. Don't pick an agency that does that. And then they have other benefits. So if you find an agency that can totally dissect this policy with you, they'll pay for home modifications. They'll pay for equipment that your parents might need. They'll pay for the button, the lifeline stuff. So there's other things that they'll pay for that families don't realize.
Wow, that's huge. That's huge. That's a really big benefit that people need to utilize, so in terms of long-term care insurance, how early is too early to start looking into long-term care insurance, or is there no such thing as too early?
I'm going to go off what I'm told by my financial advisor, and he's saying mid 40s to early 50s.
Perfect. And I think that's a really good thing for millennials and others to really look into as well, because having that in the back of our minds to be like, okay, let's start making sure that our family is going to be prepared for when we age as well. I think that's the biggest thing. And not for nothing, like everything is always ever changing, and staying on top of things like that is a great way to make sure that your family is prepared for the future, and you never know what's going to happen, right? Yeah, and so going off of that, not knowing what's gonna happen, what are 3 conversations that we should start having with our parents now while everyone is still relatively healthy, not in need of the care currently, but what are the conversations to start having in order to better prepare ourselves?
Yes, I love the first one I say is just ask your parents, what does aging in place mean to you? And that'll open it up the best way. My mom has the funniest story for that. She's like, honey, just row me out to sea, like just row me out to sea into the sunset. I'm like, no, mom, for real. Like, how do you envision this happening? So ask them that. And then get your legal and financial documents in order, like you mentioned. The power of attorneys. I have a power of attorney. It's not going to go into effect unless your parents are cognitively impaired or even temporarily. So get it now. And then who do you want making decisions for you when you can't? So those kind of go in hand in hand. Get your legal and get your POA, and then get that conversation going. And it has to be more than the row me out to sea. Like, has to be more than that, Mom. You could tell me what you want.
For sure. For sure. And I think that one, that's a good connection part of it as well. Like being like, listen, like I know things are going on with you and I understand that, but I want to be there for you. And I need to know what you want, right? Like where you'd like to be, what that looks like for you, and all of those things, right? Because as our parents age and they start and they retire or have been retired and they know what that life looks like, but what's next, right? Like how do you better prepare yourselves now? And there will be parents that don't want to have those conversations. Like I'm not going to pretend like it's easy, like your mom wants to be rolled out to sea. I'm sure my dad's going to tell me, just take me out back and shoot me like a horse. No, not doing that either. Rather not go to jail. Thanks so much. Even if you put that in your directive, it's not happening, you know, but, just understanding their wishes and their needs and where they are in that timeline. I'm sure that it's not an easy conversation, but I think having the tools you need, and like we say all along, right? Go into ChatGPT, get that pep talk in order to have that conversation and be like, okay, I can do this. And go from there.
Yeah.
What do you want caregivers to know about that after phase, right? Like what do you think are good things for them to be aware of, from the get-go, right? Like we're talking about being prepared, but I think for me, right, being prepared for what that looks like and what that all looks like. What are things that you think caregivers need to be prepared for?
Oh, yeah, you touched on this in the beginning, and I think this is going to resonate with you. But when it's all over, when the caregiving phase is done, whether your loved one moves on, passes on, your nervous system is shocked. Like that hyper vigilance, executive functioning mindset wants to keep going, but where are you going to put that energy? And so that drop in your nervous system is what people don't realize, and they misinterpreted it. But you've got to just let that drop naturally. Don't pump it into anything unhealthy. Don't pump it into more. Let it drop naturally. And I think the best thing I did when my father passed away was I literally took a week and isolated. I just isolated because I knew that hyperactive executive functioning vigilance, I needed it to rev down, but the only way to do that was for me to just be isolated. So that was what I did. Whatever works for you to naturally let that nervous system calm down and know that it's a normal part. If you're not going crazy, you're going to get out of it. There's going to be light at the end of the tunnel, but you've got to let your body adjust.
For sure, for sure. And that's really hard to do. Like I'm not going to pretend like it's not. I think for me it probably took me a lot longer than a week. But it was also just the coming down off of all of it, right? Like understanding what's next, right? Like for me I had two littles really, and they were very little, right? My daughter wasn't even a year. My son was just turned 3. So for me, I was like, I have to keep momming, but I don't really know how to mom without my mom. So personally from experience, the after was I was totally unprepared for the after. I'm going to be perfectly frank in that because that was the most difficult part. I think that the during was hard, but I didn't realize how much it would affect me physically, emotionally, all of the things, right? Just like you said, my executive functioning, I was spiraling, right? Like I was always in this fight or flight, right? I was so nervous for what the next thing to come and the next thing to come. And it was just scary and everything was scary. And so coming down off of that and living in that moment for me, it was very quick. It was really about a month that a little over a month, almost 2 months, and it was just like this. And then I was like, okay, well now what? Like how do I how like there's no decompression that could have happened fast enough, or like I was like, I don't understand, like I don't know. I think I was literally like this for probably way too long. But anyway, get a good therapist. That is the
Yeah.
thing, right? You just need someone to help pull you out of that because it's hard. And
Yeah.
for you, as a solo mom and a business owner, what boundaries or supports help you show up for others without burning out? I think that you have a very interesting business where you are dealing with people that are preparing for this end of life care, right? And it's hard to say that, but it is kind of that, right? And so how do you kind of set boundaries for yourself, and how do you make sure that you don't, one, take things personally or like deal with it personally? Like, I'm sure that it's hard. Everything that you do is hard, right? But what steps do you take personally to set those boundaries and make sure you don't have the burnout?
Yes, for sure. So my biggest thing is I co-parent. I feel so fortunate to have that co-parenting support. So I do get my breaks. I literally get to shut down, whereas most moms do not. So even if you're parenting together and married, you you need to get to a point where you do get to shut down. So I legally get to shut down, and that's huge for me as a solo mom. Dad's involved, so he's parenting with me. He's carrying 50% of the load. He's carrying 50% of the physicality of it. So in that time that I do get that break, I do this normally, but even more so is I'll do grounding. I'll make sure every day after I eat lunch, I'm walking outside. And I work in a very commercialized place in Little Havana, but I'm still going out there and I'm walking, getting sunlight, movement, journaling, spiritual support is huge. And then tight schedule with flexibility. Choosing clients is a big one. Choosing clients in collaboration that's aligned with my energy. That's huge. So those are my go-tos.
I love that. I love that. Aligned with your energy. That's huge.
Yeah.
That like really that sparks something in me because it's so true, making sure that you're surrounding yourself, business in your business and personally, that with people that are aligned with your energy, because so much of the time, and when you have the flexibility to be able to do that, it changes everything, right? It really truly does, because you know I'm the type of person that I feed off of other people's energy as well. So like, not only am I this big giant personality, I like having the energy around me that's also positive and there for me and really grounded people, and that for me, it just makes me thrive. So I love that you said that. That I don't know, it touched something in me. That was a good
Yeah.
aha moment for me.
Yeah. And there's sometimes clients call me and I'm like, there's no way I'm doing business with this person. And
I love that.
you have to make that sacrifice sometimes. The money or the energy wins.
Right? Exactly. No, I love that. Question for you. So we touched on your AI functionality. Can you talk me through a little bit more of that AI programming that you have now and what that looks like, and how, I don't know if it's out yet, but if you can give me a little bit more insight on that, that would be awesome.
Yes. So electronic caregiver is going to be like a tablet that you're ordering, and then the tablet you're going to create a care plan. So the care plan will include medication reminders, integrative wellness checks, fall alerts, so the installation of fall equipment and sensors around the home. And then the big one is cognitive stimulation. You have mentioned ChatGPT a lot, and yes, I too pay for the plan on ChatGPT, and it's my bestie. But this Addison has a built-in companionship through AI, which is huge. You can communicate with families, set up everyone's number on it, and do FaceTimes, monitoring without the intrusiveness of monitoring. So for you to think of like the physicality of it, yes, fall monitoring's there, vitals are there, but you're also getting wellness checks from people, a nurse coming on the screen every 2 weeks. You have Pocket MD, which is telehealth whenever you need it, and you're also getting the companionship side, which people don't think about when they think about AI. We know because we have ChatGPT, but people who haven't used ChatGPT as a companion, they don't get how awesome that is.
For sure, for sure. No, that's awesome. That's really great. And that seems like a good stepping stone, right? Like it's the in between, right? It's before that they do need the 24-hour or somebody coming in all the time type of care. This is a really good in between where you can still stay informed and there's functionality for it, you know. Meghan, this whole conversation was so helpful and I know it's going to land for so many moms that are out there who feel like they're barely keeping up as is, but you know, they need to know this information. So thank you so much for making this less scary and more actionable. Because at the end of the day, when we have the knowledge and know what to do with it and have the tasks at hand and know how to put those steps in place, it makes everything better for us. You know, before we go, where can people find you, learn more about your work, and reach out if they need guidance?
Definitely. So I'm on socials. I'm Meghan Phelan Official on all socials, and then Granny Nannies of South Florida on all socials. And then the best way if a family wants a consult to go over the age and place plan is to call me at 305 591 1818.
Perfect, perfect. And we'll be sure to put that below when we post this as well. So I just want to say thank you so very much, Meghan. And in terms of that, just one more follow-up question with your AI, how's it? Electronic caregiver. There we go. Um, so is that available nationwide or is right now, is it just in South Florida?
It's nationwide, so anywhere in the United States.
All right, awesome. So for all of you that are not local to us, you can also use that as well, which is awesome. So we'll make sure to put everything below and we'll give you links to everything. So if you have any questions, you can definitely reach out. Again, Meghan, thank you so very much. Granny Nannies is an amazing organization and I love everything that you do. I really appreciate having you on and really making this less scary because aging can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. So thanks again, Meghan, and I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
All right. And we are out. If you can just stay on because we have to download both sides of the recording. Hopefully that was painless.